Live.
Yep.
Whoa.
All right, we're rolling.
Yes, sir. This green wall behind me, blending in.
Welcome to the green room. Glad to have you. Our last episode, we filmed episode 4.
Yes,
How'd
sir.
you think that went?
It was good. I mean, it was very impromptu, right? You didn't really have a plan. I mean, generally, you don't really have a plan going into these.
Sure.
Some sort of outline.
You should have something,
Some
yeah.
sort of outline of an idea.
Like I've hung out with guys that I was just with a pastor in Los Angeles when I was visiting, and he was telling me he was on a podcast, but like the guy didn't tell him what they were speaking on until just started.
Okay.
And it's almost as if Jesse was on our episode before this one, and he was talking about how he just likes to have the right answer, and that's normal. I think socially you want the right answer, but I love just like conversations.
Yeah.
And all the feedback we've been getting about Good News has just been, it's just genuine, it's authentic, it's cool.
It's been cool to produce just because like hearing, because we talk all the time, but to have it recorded and just be able to listen back and be like, oh, because sometimes we feel like some of the conversations we had, we should have been recording it in the first place so we can run it back.
100%. Yeah. When we started the church, I was just like, Jeri, record this because I feel like I'm going to say something's going to be said here. It's going to be good. Yeah. So, all right. Well, welcome back. Good News, episode number 5. And today on the podcast, I'm so glad to have one of my dear friends, incredible guy, incredible person, incredible leader. Plays a big role here at our church, but such an amazing story. Jeri Perez.
Oh, such kind words, sir.
Welcome.
Some kind of words. Yeah, pleasure.
When you and I would have met, when was this? Last year we met.
Yeah.
Our wives are friends. They've been friends for years. And I heard, oh, yeah, my friend Bree is married to this guy, Jeri, and you're going to meet him. And so I had met you, though, after I think you and your wife determined you were moving out here.
Yes. So the first time we met was on FaceTime.
Yes.
And I remember you guys bringing it up one time. He's like, you seem so enthused. And
yes,
I think at that point I was very like unsure. I was like, I didn't know what ministry was like. I didn't know what church planting was.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it was very new still. But
we kind of pitched this vision, like move cross country with us, for a revival. And you're like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think we've grown very, very close the past year, just because, like you said, we're in the trenches together.
Absolutely. It's been the coolest thing. So for anybody that doesn't know, Jeri moved out here with his wife and pretty much leads our production department here, produces all our content online, produces this episode that he's on right now. And that's one thing that when I talk to church planners, like I'm always like, do you have somebody that can produce? And what I did at my home church was creative department. So I felt like I knew what I wanted and I knew enough to be able to say, hey, here's what we're going for. But dude, you've taken it to a next level. So what's it been like for you doing like photography and doing videography in church?
It's so funny. I think God's prepared me to get to this point.
Yeah.
Prior to this, I would shoot live shows for musicians, for DJs, even from the old company I used to work for.
Yeah.
We would for what we used to do at the Rotunda, the whole setup with 2 TVs, audio, camera recording, video switching. We did that for
what would you do that for? Like, what would the show be?
So, an example would be we'd do so we'd bring in a guest DJ. He would teach us a tutorial how to do something on this new machine that just came out, or a producer going through a tutorial on something on Ableton.
Okay.
We'd literally set up screen capture, multicam, audio, and video clips. What do we do for service?
The same thing for church, right? Yeah,
exact same thing. So it's so funny where I went through that job not knowing God was preparing me for.
It was preparing you for
this.
So have you always been a Christian? Like, is church a normal thing for you? Because when you moved out here, I remember learning like a little bit about your background, but knowing like even Bree, like your wife has never sang publicly like she is now. Yeah. So what's your faith background look like?
So I was raised Catholic, like most Filipinos. I think I stated it in the previous podcast. So most Filipinos, when they grow up Catholic. I think that's due to the Spaniards colonizing for a little bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So same thing happened with Mexico, but there is a portion that is Muslim due to being in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of Muslims in Southeast Asia, right?
Wow.
So, but I grew up Catholic. My dad was going to school to become a priest prior to meeting my mom, but that fell through. They got married.
Yeah, because priests, I don't think you can get married, right?
No, you cannot.
In the order, they're pretty devout on that. Like,
But he did become a deacon when I turned 21. He turned 50. He just made a decision like, I serve my country, so now I want to serve the Lord at that capacity.
That's
that I
awesome.
serve my country. So you have to honor that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, what was that like? Your dad saying that, like, I want to be a deacon in the Catholic Church.
I was all for it. Like him going through the schooling for it did soften him up a little bit. He was pretty strict when we were growing up. Military, Filipino, so very traditional.
Sure.
So we felt it growing up, me and my sister. I think we were very sheltered. I say that openly to most people. Like I felt sheltered when I was growing up, but I did notice when he was more involved in church, he did soften up a little bit.
Right.
His heart opened up a little bit more. So it was definitely a good move for him.
It was a good thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a good thing.
That's what, I mean, we've talked about Catholicism before, and I love the structure of the religion. I love the devoutness of the followers of Catholicism, and I think we've talked about it. I feel like Catholicism is where I start to break it down a little bit more.
Yeah.
But is such depth and meaning and value to be found in like Catholic practices and stuff. So, what are some things you think you learned growing up Catholic, like that you look back on, and you say, you know what, that was a good thing for me to learn that.
The idea of the Trinity. I mean, right? Because that's very strong. So, the head, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit.
Yeah, 1 and 3, 3 and 1 kind of thing. Yeah.
The Gospels for sure, because if you go to Catholic Church, they go in the rotation every year. It's a different rotation of if they're going through Mark, Luke, or John.
But it's always one of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just the ritualistic aspect of Catholicism prepares you to just try to activate you in a way where you're speaking with God, but it's different than how we do church, I think.
Sure. In terms of like how we teach prayer or intimate connection with God, Catholicism is going after the same thing, but just a few more little steps along the way.
There's more to do, if anything.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and we've talked about this too, like the liturgy in the Catholic Church or the reading or the flow. Sometimes it's good to have the same thing happening over and over, because when you go through hell or you go through a difficult season and you don't know what to do, it's like, why not do the thing you've always done, which is go to Mass and take the sacraments and go to confession. And for some people, we like to pick apart the theology before actually seeing like the heart behind some of these people. And that's what you've taught me a lot about Catholicism I didn't even know, or helped me strip back things that, thought I did.
I think for me, like I'm not fully practicing the Catholic anymore, but I think there's still practical aspects of it that people can take away from. And with each flavor of being a Christian, like it works for some people, it doesn't work for some others, right?
100%. There just has to be a connection to God.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Like we'll save Catholicism for another podcast, but I just find that so interesting. So your dad and your mom grow up Catholic. He wants to be a priest, ends up getting married, becomes a deacon.
Yeah.
Where are they from? Are they from Philippines?
Yeah.
Which part?
Both around the main island region, so around Manila.
Okay.
So their primary language at first was Tagalog, which is considered Filipino,
Tagalog,
standard Filipino.
Yeah.
So my mom was born in Marikina City, which is known for shoes. Like there's a lot of shoe cobblers out there.
Okay, like what kind of shoes?
Like dress shoes.
Oh, okay,
When the first time I visited, I noticed there was a very big statue of like a shoe.
Yeah.
My dad was born in Bombong, Bulacan, which is known for vinegar.
Wow.
So my dad actually used to peddle vinegar with his family.
What? Oh, that's cool. So when you say peddle vinegar, what does that mean? Like,
so okay, aside from like actually help harvest it and all that, they would bottle it and then they would sell it to different towns. So all climb into a truck and do that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to hear stories about that. And
but you weren't born in Philippines?
No, I was born and raised in Oceanside, which is part of San Diego. My dad immigrated.
West Coast culture, huh?
West.
Oceanside is like a whole vibe.
People love Oceanside.
Yeah, we'll get there. Oceanside's a vibe. Okay,
Yeah,
so born and raised Oceanside.
Yeah, so the reason my family's out here is my dad enlisted in the U.S. Navy in Cebu City, or is it Cebu? There was a base in the Philippines at one point in time where a whole bunch of Filipinos enlisted, and that's why they got their families here. That's why there's so many Filipinos in the Navy.
Wow.
They used it as a way to immigrate and chase the American dream.
Yeah, 100%. And that makes sense, though, because I've heard a lot of people different ethnicities coming to join the military to chase that dream.
Yeah.
And I think it's awesome. You know, I think America gave so many of us, like my family came from Europe, gave such a great opportunity. You know, I'm Italian.
Yeah.
My dad's mom is from a town just outside of Sicily.
Yeah.
And it's so easy sometimes to forget, like, most of us came to this country.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
So, yeah.
Like pretty much all of us came to America.
Yeah.
And I just love hearing the different heritages and just diversity that we now have. So were you growing up like Filipino culture was in your face?
Oh,
like,
yeah, for sure.
What is Filipino culture? I mean, when you think about that, like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Hospitality. Most Filipinos go into either nursing or some sort of hospitality route. Like,
wow.
If nursing, because I think we as a culture, we're very caring, tend to your needs.
Yeah.
Like if you get invited to a Filipino house, a Filipino auntie will always ask you if you want something to eat right away.
Hey, I need an auntie like that. Yeah.
So I think that's where we get it from, where we like to feed our friends and stuff.
Yeah, you guys are so hospitable.
Yeah.
You guys for birthdays are giving coupons like this is for one dinner cooked by Bree and Jeri.
Acting like we're not going to feed you regardless of
I
the
know.
coupon,
I'm
right?
eating either time I come over.
But yeah, I think
Okay, hospitality. That's cool.
for sure.
Yeah, I when I worked at Marriott in Los Angeles, Burbank, actually, I worked in the front desk manager was Filipino.
Yeah.
And Luis, coolest guy in the world. He'd speak Tagalog to a couple of like the other Filipino bellmen and stuff, but so keen on when you walk into this door, he used to say, you are coming into our front door. And I'd be like, bro, I work here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a valet. I'm just working. He was like, no, when you're working for Marriott, this is our house.
Yeah.
And we're welcoming people into our home.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like you said, just a hospitable spirit. And it's very, very cool. You know, okay, so what about food for Filipino culture? Like, how's food prepped? What's like one of the dishes that's a go-to for you?
I find a lot of food is use soy sauce for sure.
Okay.
A lot of soy based, a lot of vinegar based. So adobo, like just like
Say again, adobo.
Adobo. I think it's similar
Like
with
Adobe Photoshop or adobo.
no, so adobo. So ADOBO. I think Mexicans actually have their form of adobo too, and it's vinegar based too. I was actually researching it a month ago, and I think the adobo that Mexicans have actually came from the Philippines.
Really?
It was I think it was, if I was reading it correctly, it was carried over from Spaniards, and they brought it to Mexico at one point in time. So
and it gets translated into that culture. Yeah, that's
a
cool.
whole bunch of intermingling. So there's that. I attribute Filipino food to be very much like soul food. It's very savory for the most part.
Yeah.
But it's feel good food.
Yeah. Comfort food, a sense of home.
Yep, exactly.
You know, you're getting ready to cook actually for us this week because we're doing something for my wife's birthday, and you're going to prep a dish for that. So what are you making, birria?
Birria, which is Mexican actually.
Yeah.
So, but it's something I've tried. The first time I tried it was maybe like 2 months ago. So
Pretty good.
I loved it. I mean, how did you like it?
I loved it.
Last time we made it was for my wife's birthday too.
I like lumpia.
I've never made lumpia from scratch, but I have been getting many requests since we've been here, so I'll probably try it eventually.
Hey, shout out to Yoshi if you're watching. Joel Yoshi, he's Filipino. He would always show up to church with some lumpia in his back pocket.
Word?
Dude, he would show up with my wife, and he'd pull out like a little plastic bag that had three of them. She would lose her mind.
Yeah, I think I'll figure it out just because I've had so many people ask. I think Randy's even asked me for it once or twice. So.
Well, I don't think Joel made it. I think his mom did or his grandma did. But either way, pretty cool stuff.
It's good. Egg rolls. We love egg rolls.
Yeah.
Right?
And you like to cook though too, right? So
yeah, I got that from my mom. My mom.
Another hospitable thing.
Yeah,
like
it's
cooking
like my mom. No matter if she worked a long day, when she gets home, she generally will cook. If she did, unless she cooked the day before, we're used to making big portions that we're able to share.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like family style.
Yeah.
Like here's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
Cook, eat it
Leftovers
yourself.
is common in our house. So food is great. It's where you're able to sit at a table, converse, and just enjoy time.
There's something special about that table. Like here at the church, we've been talking a lot about that. Like the most important part of the church can't be around the platform.
Yeah.
It needs to be around a table.
Yeah.
And if you've noticed this, like there's not a table big enough for all of us. So there's these individual groups and tables and stuff. One thing I really love about you and Bree is y'all do Sunday dinners. And the first time you came over, Bree was like, "It's Sunday dinner. This is what we do." And I'm like, "So, like, what does Sunday dinner mean for you? What is that? Like, why do you guys have dinner on Sundays?"
So
like,
I think
what's
that
the
carried over
significance?
from her parents and my parents as well. So for me and my Filipino side, we used to do that like once a week because that's the only time you'd ever get me and my sister with my parents, and then
On the
now
weekend.
our significant others, right? So it's where we're able to break bread, just talk to each other and just be there with one another uninterrupted and just enjoying food and company. We used to do it with our family too. Just it's the same thing.
Yeah.
We want to be able to just break bread, converse, and just have quality time with one another. We're so busy all the time. Yes, we see each other every day, but we're not.
It's a different kind of focus when we're trying to accomplish a goal or we're filming a podcast.
Yeah,
or, you know, it's
exactly.
like it's different when you got everything stripped away and it's just you and a meal and the people you care about.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, so Sunday dinner. Do you guys do that every week? Is it kind of every other? Do you feel like?
I feel like it's turned into once a month, unless there's like a birthday. Like I think we just tend to celebrate birthdays on the weekend after Sunday, just because Sundays are big days for the week.
Right.
So it makes sense just to celebrate.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got through another week.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. Watching you and Bree like adapt to a weekly church flow. Like Randy and I obviously have done this forever.
Yeah.
Not forever. I've done it for 10 years. She's done it like 18. And she grew up knowing like Sunday's coming. Sunday's coming.
Yeah.
And the amount of fulfillment we get on a Sunday, like it's hard work and it's definitely spiritual and there's a weight to it.
Yep.
But getting home on a Sunday afternoon, getting into your PJs, your comfy clothes.
Oh my gosh,
and when you hit that
naps.
couch and you just go,
Yes.
Like-
Like you're able to just breathe after a service and like.
but it's not even like you're decompressing after a job and you're like, oh, I'm finally done with that place. There's almost like this, that was crazy, but it was incredible.
And we're gonna do it again next week.
And we get to do it again next week. What has been the biggest adjustment for you on a Sunday morning flow? Is it just getting up early?
Yeah, you know, shoot, I'm not okay. So I used to be an early riser for high school because I used to commute to high school.
Wait a minute. You used to be an early riser for high school. Isn't that everyone has to get up to go to high
No,
school?
but did you have to get on a train at like 5:30 in the morning?
Oh, yeah. Just okay. Now you're talking, bro.
I used to commute because I was in Catholic school from kindergarten all the way to senior year of high school. Different school from from kindergarten to 8th grade. I was in a more local area school.
Yeah.
But from all of high school, I commuted like an hour away.
Just to go. It was like a private school.
Private school. So I took a train. I used to wake up at like 5 o'clock, leave the house at 5:30, get on the train at 6, get to on my stop at 7, get on a bus that was like 20 minutes, and then I was at school. So I used to be a really early riser.
I want to say like I was catching the bus at like 6:30.
Yeah.
But it was like the school bus,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came
yeah.
and picked you up.
Yeah.
And that was in New Jersey and Massachusetts and stuff. Okay, so you were taking a train in Oceanside.
Yeah, so go from Oceanside to Old Town, which is right before downtown San Diego.
Yeah.
And then I take a bus up to USD, so University of San Diego.
Yep.
Right?
Go Aztecs. Aren't they the Aztecs?
No, they are. I don't even know their thing.
What is it, San Diego State?
No, so this is University of San Diego.
Oh.
So this is a private school, private university.
Hey Siri.
Triton.
What is it the Tritons?
I think it's Triton.
What is the mascot of the University of San Diego?
She's silent.
Yeah, I was just going to say, the Torero.
Oh, never mind. What's the Tritons then? Well, I'm tripping.
Well, here it is, Triton. Given UC San Diego's close proximity to the Pacific, its connections with the world famous. I got to read the rest of the article.
I think it's Triton.
It is Trident. Yep.
Fly.
The Tritons Rising, 1964. They made it their appropriate mascot. Okay, so the Tritons. So
our original campus was across the street from USD. We were called University of San Diego High School.
okay, and was it a Catholic joint though, or
yeah,
it was just
So I
but
was
no reference to anything Catholic, huh?
So
Like our mothers, or-
no. So our mascot was the Dons, which pretty much references the conquistadors.
Oh,
Spaniards.
okay,
Yeah,
very cool.
yeah.
Okay, so high school, private school. Do you think that sheltered you growing up?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
for sure. I acknowledge that big time. Because when I got to college, I was just a free bird.
I was gonna say, okay, so it changed a little bit when you got out of there.
No, yeah.
Yep.
I was very much a free bird. Still had my freshman year. I still had the structure of being in a cohort for school.
Yeah.
But once I got out of the cohort and I was free to do whatever I wanted, I was a little aimless just because I was so structured
Sure.
before.
You're like, I'm free. I'm gonna go eat cereal at 6 a.m. I don't care.
Yeah. But I think it was to my benefit. I needed to be able to explore
Sure.
what I wanted to do. And
Sure.
eventually from going through school for so long, I ended up landing on creativity and just wanting to do art type things.
Yeah.
So,
So you're a kid growing up in San Diego. California, SoCal.
Yep.
West Coast culture is
West.
big thing.
Yes.
You know, I was there for a big chunk of my life and now back here on the East Coast. But what's your favorite part about like Southern California, West Coast culture? Like for me, like I gotta say, being so close to the border in SoCal, like the Mexican food was always on point.
Bro, I love Mexican food so much. That's to the point where we had to learn how to make it here because we don't have it here.
No, yeah. There's people in our town. I'll be like, where do we get good Mexican food? And they'll say, well, technically, you know, these guys are Puerto Rican, but they do cook Mexican dishes. And I'm like, I'm nervous already. You know,
it's not the same.
When I talk to David from our church and I say, how's the Mexican food out here? And he's like, it's good enough. And I go, that's a problem.
Good enough. I'm not down for good enough. Especially when it comes to food. Like, maybe I'll hit up like a fast food joint every so often, but I will want to make my own food if I can't get it myself.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on fast food. I miss In-N-Out.
And then I miss Jack in the Box, dude. We don't have Jack in the Box
as a jam. Yeah. Okay, so Jack in the Box, that was like high school for me. You know, those 99-cent tacos were my jam, and it was always, the night was always ending. If it was Friday night or Saturday night, it was always ending at Jack in the Box.
Yeah, I can say that too.
Like even back before I met Jesus, my friends and I were never going to like parties. We were never like going out. It was like, let's go hang out, play some video games. Let's go watch this basketball game, and let's go to Jack in the Box. Yeah, no, it was just a social touch point.
Yeah, after parties, I went to Jack in the Box. After dance rehearsal, I went to Jack in the Box. After live shows, I would go to Jack in the Box because they're open late.
Yeah, it always works. Yeah. Okay, so Jack in the Box. What other places?
In-N-Out. We said In-N-Out. I love it. Jeez. I think it's just the vibe of the West Coast is just such a thing. Yeah. I think you, as growing up on the West Coast, you can't get it out of your system. I think.
Yeah, just being there, you know, it's a unique culture. You're like something different about being on this side.
Yeah, and then there's such a contrast too from if you're from the West Coast, but if you're from like the Bay Area, or if you're from like San Diego, LA, vibes are different too.
Sure.
Which I think I embody both, just because I have family up in the Bay Area, so I'd be up there all the time. But I am born and raised in San Diego.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
Yeah.
So while you're down there, how do you meet your wife? How'd you and Bree meet?
So we met through dance.
Okay. You guys are dancers?
Yes. So
like hip hop dancing?
Yes. Competitively. So me and my friend Sean Kirk.
Like you got served competitive? Like you remember the end of that movie they were at the competition?
Did
you ever see You Got Served?
Yes.
I know you did.
No, I loved that movie growing up. The acting is horrible.
Little Saint.
Poor Little Saint. I am a fan of Megan Good. That was my crush growing up. So
Marcus Houston, that was my boy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I'd listen to his
Dancing
stuff.
in the Rain. Come on now. Like after that movie, all dancers wanted to dance in the rain.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. No, so sort of
competitions like that.
Yeah, sort of at the capacity of the competitions towards the end of the movie. We were sort of a collegiate team, so you have like 5 minutes on stage and you train literally months ahead of time just for those 5 minutes on stage.
Yeah.
So me and my friend Sean Kirk started a team called Zero to Hero.
Nice.
Yeah. It's referencing the Hercules movie made by Disney. Our logo at first was even that actual, like the symbol of the gods.
Okay, sick.
So
you guys must like that movie, huh?
Yeah, and I think it's just how inspirational of the story is finding your way and trying to figure out what is your purpose. I think that's what it stuck with us with the name.
Yeah.
So we started as a group of 7. It was me, my sister, our friend Sterling, Sean, our friend Angie, and then my god sister Karina.
That's cool. And so who's prepping the choreography?
So at first it was all of us. So I probably only choreographed like 1 or 2 pieces for the team, but I ended up just being like a managing director.
That's dope.
So I would help us book our stuff, book our gigs, get into competitions, submit applications, create merch, social media stuff, all that stuff.
What did being on a dance team, you guys met there, what did that do for you guys in terms of like just social dynamics? Like what was it like having like a dance crew, like people you performed with, practiced with?
It was community. Like it's something that everyone searches for is common ground.
Something to connect through.
Yeah. Something to connect through. We would spend hours and hours in every week. Like we would rehearse 3 times a week, 4-hour rehearsals. Hell Week would be like the week before a competition, literally almost every day for 4 hours straight.
Yeah.
Like,
and are you guys like training, like physical strength training, or is it mainly just dancing? Are you doing cardio? Or
so a lot of cardio. My friend Sean was actually an athlete, so we'd end up doing a lot of athlete training that sometimes didn't apply to what we were
dancing,
doing.
sure. You're like, why are we bench pressing right now? Yeah, like what are we doing?
I think it was effective training, but sometimes I was like, we were just dead before we even got to the dance rehearsal part. So it's like it's good endurance training though. Like I was definitely holding a weight of 160 for the longest time just because of all the training we're doing.
Yeah.
But it did cause us to lean on each other a little bit, just because if you need to push through to get the rehearsal, because like if one person isn't getting a piece of choreo, that means everyone's being held up. It's like the whole idea of one band, one sound from Drumline. Like you need to be all
movie.
yeah. You need to be together. It's a unison type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Nick Cannon.
Yeah. So
Megan Good was in that movie too? No. What's her name? The other girl.
Was it? It wasn't Kristen Milian, was it?
No.
Who was the girl?
Definitely wasn't her. I know who it is. She's right. I could see her face. I just don't know what her name is. She's the girl that played isn't she the same girl from Guardians of the Galaxies that played Gamora?
Oh, Zoe Saldana.
That's her, right?
Her. That is her.
That's a young Zoe.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I like her too.
She was great in that
She's
movie.
Good. She's good.
That's a classic movie. They tried to do a sequel. I think it was bad.
Yeah, it was like a straight to TV.
Well, it wasn't even Nick Cannon. It was
it
like some other student.
Yeah.
But Drumline, everyone remembers that.
I think Columbus Short was in that movie too. He was in Stomp the Yard.
Yep, he was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was good in that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a 90s kid thing, I think, because that movie came out like early 2000s, I want to say. Yeah. So you had to be at least like 10 or 11 to go, oh, this is awesome.
But that's a skill though, the play by ear.
Yeah.
And just get through an audition without knowing your notes.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember he's face to face with the dude in the showdown, and he starts playing on his drum. You remember that? And I was like, like 11-year-old me was like, oh my gosh, Dad, what's gonna happen in a fight? So you and Bree meet and dance. What happened? How did that happen? Like, was it you interested in her? Was it her interested in you? Are you just a smooth dancer? You know?
No,
and she's like, all right, I want to get with him.
So apparently, she's always had a crush on me.
From dance.
Because that's the first time we met was through dance.
Right.
It was even before our dance team. So we have I think it's a 6-year age gap. So I am currently 33.
Okay.
But when I met her, I was like just after I turned 21. So she was still technically
15, yeah.
Yeah, she was technically 17 when I met her. I was like 22.
Yeah, that's how it was with me and Randy. She was 17.
Yeah.
And we were friends, and it was just like, I never even had an interest.
Yeah,
and
no.
later I'm like, oh, yeah, I know
so
you.
For me,
Yeah.
I was like, I thought she was cute, but I had no interest at that time just because I was like, she's in high school. I'm like, why am I going to
just
pursue
let life happen a little bit.
Yeah. But we did get close after like a year or so of like dancing together.
Yeah.
I thought she was cute. But I didn't, we were flirting a little bit, but I didn't realize how I actually felt about her until one night we were heading back from having dinner with all of our dance team, going back to what we called the back cave, which is where we rehearsed.
Yeah.
It was an underground parking structure. There was going to be a crump session. We were all supposed to go just to watch our friends, but my brakes in my car blew out. So I thought I was going to get into a really bad car accident with my friend in the car with me. So I was just like traumatized from that.
Yeah.
So the first person I thought of to call was her.
Nice.
Her phone was dead. So
Sure.
Yeah, her phone was dead. So I couldn't really talk to her. But I texted her. I was like, so hypothetically speaking, if your friend were to tell you they had feelings for you, how would you feel?
Nice.
Yeah. So hypothetical. I actually met her, but I wasn't trying to be direct.
Yeah.
The way she took it was actually hypothetical. She thought I was talking about somebody else.
She's like, good, because I like your friend.
So the next day at rehearsal, I was like, okay, I just need to fess up and just tell her. Because at that point, I didn't care if she was going to react the same way. I was like, okay, I just need to tell her because I thought I was going to be dead and I just need to get this on my chest, let her know, and that's it. Close book. So I tell her right before rehearsal, I was like, can I just need to talk to you after rehearsal, okay? And I'll see you after rehearsal. So we start rehearsal. We get to the rehearsal. Mind you, I didn't know this until later. She thought I was going to kick her out of the medley that we were doing for a competition we were prepping for.
Oh, so you have this conversation with her and she's like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah,
oh,
she thought I was being director, not her friend at the time. And So she's like dancing her hardest, trying to make sure she looks good for our competition the following Saturday. And I bring her aside. I was like, okay, so you know that text I sent you, and I was trying to explain. It's like, well, what I was talking about, it was you. Like I care about you so much.
Sounds like such a Brie thing for her to miss that. Like, good job. I'm just picturing her face when you're telling her this. I'm like,
and then her reaction is, so I'm not kicked out. I was like, what? No.
Like, no. Do you like me though? And she's like, I'm not off the group.
And she's like, oh, I like you too. I was like, what? Okay, so now we're just like, so what is this now? I was like, so we're just like trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, it came down to me thinking I was gonna die, and then I was like, okay, I do have feelings for her. But people, if you ask everybody else, people saw it.
Yeah,
but
they could see the chemistry before it happened.
Yeah, but Brie will always say she knew a lot more behind the scenes with what was going on with me. So for her, she couldn't see it, which I understand. I told her a lot of things that would sway you otherwise if you knew.
Sure.
But from the outside looking in, people could see that there's a thing there.
Yeah. So okay, so that led to a couple dates, and then just
we
kind of
went on
like,
dates. I asked her dad if I could take her on a first date.
Yes.
That's the first time I ever did that. That was so.
How was that?
I love him. He's great.
Yeah,
it was just for me. It was hard because I've never had to do that.
Yeah.
It was a vulnerable moment for me to put myself out there for it, because I've never had to ask a dad, like, can I date your daughter?
Shout out to guys who still do that, because that is a commendable thing, but it is awkward.
Yeah.
Like going to a dad and being like, can I take your daughter on a date?
Yeah, like, did you do that with George?
I did.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Well, I had 2 conversations with him. The first was to let him know I liked his daughter. And, you know, I forget what his thing was. He said, your life has holes in it. And I was like, okay. And he goes, but if you're with my daughter, those holes are going to get patched up. I was like, okay. And then the second time was to marry. And he was like, no way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I really want to get married. And he's like, no, you're a pastor. I don't want my daughter in ministry. And today we're cool. He loves it. She's in ministry.
Love
but
George.
yeah, it is awkward asking about a date.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because when I met him at Starbucks, and I'd been a Christian like 6 months, and I'm getting ready to like ask her on an official date.
Yeah.
We went to Frozen Yogurt and Yogurtland. And so I sit down and I go to Starbucks and I sit down and I'm like waiting for him.
Yeah.
And like 3 or 4 guys from church walk in because it was right by our church. And one guy comes up, he goes, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm about to meet with George to talk, about possibly going out with Randy.
Yeah.
And bro, every guy I saw was like, oh, good luck. Yeah.
Well, no, what I hear is George was a lot scarier.
Yeah. He was scary. No, but I think it's just a dad thing too. Like when a guy wants to date my daughter, I'm going to like,
bro, he's gonna do it. You and
a little
the
more
uncles.
intense.
Come on.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be like
us.
it's gonna be like Pokemon stages. You got to go through 3 people before you come to the gym master. So that's cool. Okay, so Brie, obviously, I know her story. She's, she was definitely raised different in terms of religion than you. She comes out of like a Pentecostal, like full gospel movement, like Holy Ghost kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Like here you are knowing God through the Catholic practice. What's that like now dating somebody who's like Shandala, praying, laying hands and like.
So my first experience was that
speaking in tongues and all that stuff.
Brie one time was like, okay, so sometimes my mom speaks in tongues. It's normal. Don't worry about it. I was like, okay.
You're like, okay.
Sure. And I saw it, I was like, oh, okay. Like she lay hands on me.
Right. It's not.
Prophesy over me. I was like, okay. But my first Holy Spirit experience was going to church with her. We went to a church called The Movement. It was during worship. My mom would always tell me when going to church, she'd feel, there'd be moments in church where she'd feel the Holy Spirit. She'd literally tell me like from the crest of her head, she'd feel it just drip down, like to feel it just flow down on you. I always wanted to feel that, but it never did. But the first time I ever felt it was when I went to church with Brie.
Wow. And that was just, what kind of church was it? Where was this?
It was non-denominational.
In California?
California,
Yep.
San Marcos, California. So
San Marcos.
Yeah. Great worship experience. The word was good. That was the first time I felt like I really, truly felt the Holy Spirit, which was a great experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now how about like your individual relationship with Jesus? Like now, obviously we're building a pretty, I don't want to call us a holistic movement, but we're trying to definitely purify what church looks like. A lot of people in this area are used to like attend, sit up, stand down, leave.
Yeah.
And we're trying to invite people into like a lifestyle of knowing Jesus intimately, talking to him daily, trying to become like him.
Yeah.
So when you started going to church with Bree, what was that like for like your own view of God?
I think I was still trying to figure it out, honestly. There was a time where there was one time we went, so we got a prophetic word from one of the pastors. But I was also there with her. So she received hers and was just like sobbing, just like from the Spirit. But he took me aside and he was like, for you to move forward, to be with this woman, you need to become a true man of God. At that point, I didn't really know
what that meant. Yeah.
But I ended up receiving it, and I needed to pray more, get in my scripture more, just encompass the whole idea of being that. And eventually, like a few months later, we did end up splitting. But when we did split, that's when I started going down that journey. Like I was reading a lot more. I was getting into devotions, listening to more worship, and just trying to figure out what is this relationship that I have with God.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a big part, I think, of people's personal discipleship is if you're not naming the stage you're in, you're not aware of the room you have to grow. And so a lot of people, just kind of haphazardly go through faith without ever saying like, no, I think I'm ready now to step into this. Or, fasting is like a next tier for a lot of people. They're like, I love to pray, but I'm not there at fasting yet. And it's like, okay, but there's a hunger and a desperation. It's good. As long as there's something that says, I want to go deeper and more into it. You know, I have to keep my relationship fresh. Like if it's like stale bread, you try to eat bread from yesterday, you can eat it and it'll nourish you, but
it's not the same.
It doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
And so getting in that word every morning or getting that time with God is like, okay, I want some fresh bread today.
Yeah.
It's been so cool too, seeing your journey. Cause we started going to church together, a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
We started in June last year doing stuff. And now, this past Sunday we had 2 services and maybe 150 people come out. What's it been like seeing the church grow? What's it been like seeing some life change?
Cool. Like, I think you guys are really good at making us feel like this church gospel is not just yours.
Yes.
It's
come on.
It's very much God's, but like you make sure your community feels like it's theirs. It's like we're allowed to take ownership with it.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like now. I think I was a little resistant to claim it so much to be mine.
Yeah.
In the beginning, but now I'm so
You're
proud.
seeing it.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. I'm so proud of what we're doing here.
It's awesome.
There's been so much growth and just from being your small living room to this building.
That's what I'm saying. Like our first message was in a college rental.
Yeah.
And we recorded it too. You can go watch on the church page.
Yes,
but now it's like we're sitting in our own space. And, God's been faithful. It's been cool though, just to see you guys grow and get hungry for God. I'm thankful too. You did a lot of freelance photography work and videography work before.
Yeah.
So now to be here, you obviously have the skill set. Do you think there's a place where like faith and creativity kind of meet, like where it can be like for God?
Yeah. No, it's like whenever you do creative work, it's problem solving. That's why I tell our team.
Wow.
Production, it's literally all problem solving.
Yeah.
And what does God do for us? He helps solve our problem. So why can that not intersect?
Yeah.
I think since he is a creator, by creating ourselves, we're able to, in a way, manifest and feel what he does for us every single day.
Yeah.
Right. And just be able to visually just manifest something that I never thought could happen.
I get it. Yeah.
Right.
Well, just that idea of like, he's a creative being.
Yeah.
And if we're made in his image, naturally we should be creative.
Yeah.
Now we don't create out of nothing like he does,
Not at all.
but the concept of take something, turn it into something else
Yes.
is God.
Yeah. Something transformative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And in our church, it's been so cool. We were filming for some other stuff earlier and someone walked in, they're like, I'm just not used to like having a pastor that's like putting out content and filming stuff. And in my head, I'm like, well, that is just the natural response to God's love is what can I put out there to bring glory to him?
Yeah.
And even the most basic conversations people are inspired by.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we just overthink being creative.
I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. For myself, I feel like I don't fully end the loop of creativity because you're supposed to ideation, execution, and then sharing. I don't get to the sharing part most of the time for myself.
Why is that?
I
Fear of people's opinions?
No, I
just never get it done.
I just don't get to it because I'll prioritize everyone else's thing before my own.
Yeah.
And that's a tale of forever for me.
Sure.
Like I will push your idea before I push myself.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a bad thing.
I think it comes from a heart of
Yeah.
like humility, but also hospitality.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I want to see you elevated too.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. But I do have some goals that I know I will like accomplish. It's just
yeah.
I need to set up everything else first before I can get to that point.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
preparation.
Well, I think a lot of people watching this know what it's like to be in like a creative block or to be in a space where you're just kind of, it's easier to do nothing. I just think creativity is so much easier than we make it sometimes. I think our idea of creativity is the public approval of what we've produced. But I think God's idea of creativity is make something that you can let go of and go, I did that. Not in an egotistical way, but I find so much fulfillment just from like editing a vlog or like, putting a clip up because it's something you're doing to get attention on something.
Yeah, it's just the satisfaction of I completed something.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's our problem in today's world is we have a lot of people that start well but don't know how to complete. So it's like unfinished books, unfinished ideas, unfinished channels. Like, people were coming at me at first like, oh, so you're on YouTube now. And I'm like, bro, I'm doing a vlog because it gives me something to do every week. Moving from LA to a small town in New York, like where we're at, I just had so much free time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, why don't I just produce something every week? And this way it keeps my energy going, keeps my juices flowing.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate all your levels of creativity. Tell me about like this area. So we obviously live in a rural area. We've been in Southern California. I'm from LA at times. You've been in, SoCal, lived in LA as well at times. What's it like coming over here where creativity, people really don't care?
It's very different, but also because it's different, it's inspiring, I feel like, for us, because it looks so different. We're used to tall buildings, concrete jungle types.
Yeah, or like the desert.
Or the desert.
Sand,
Yes.
yeah.
But we get a lot more greenery here. We have the 4 seasons, things we've never experienced before. And I think in that way, it's inspiring because it's giving us a freshness, right?
Yeah.
That people here are so used to. They probably take it for granted at this point.
Absolutely. But I think too, like the amount of creativity that flows out of this house comes from a direct relationship with the creator, and so we've had talent come through our doors and, we love talent, but at the same time we want heart.
Yeah.
I'd love to elevate people that have heart before talent because if you spend time with the creator, you will leave his presence wanting to be creative.
Yes.
You will leave saying like, oh, it's not over yet. You might have gone into his presence like, well, but once you leave, you're like, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And so I love coming out of pockets of prayer and just having new ideas or innovation or fresh things. Not everything sticks. I think that's another thing. You got to be willing to try things to be creative.
Yeah.
But I think we overthink it.
Yeah, definitely. I have so many ideas I put into a book and not all of them have come out.
Yeah.
Like the other day we were looking for sea glass. And for like an idea, because I've always wanted to get into animation because I used to draw and write.
Yeah.
So we have an idea to just do little shorts of ourselves and just things we do.
Oh, that's
throughout
cool.
the
Like
day.
actually draw some animations. That would be fresh.
Sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys hear it first. I told my wife already. So
Yes, that's so
I have an idea
cool.
because it's just, I don't know. Because we just do some funny things that we think is hilarious.
Yeah.
No one gets it. I don't really care. I'm just going to make it just for fun.
What would you say to any creative watching that maybe are feeling stuck?
Push forward. You don't know until you get through it. Sometimes the toughest ideas are a lot easier than you think because you're getting ahead of yourself before you even get to the end.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of people that ask about like the church brand or they ask about like our design or who does your media or who does your video. And they see something we've put out and assume like, oh, you guys just got it all together to put it out.
Yeah.
But everything that gets put out on social media, there's a story to it.
Yeah, of course.
And there's, hours of editing that no one saw, or there's a storyboard concept that no one saw. And so I always try to tell people too, if you feel stuck, like switch it up.
Yeah.
Like go somewhere else, try a different idea,
Yeah.
read a different book,
Yeah.
try a different solution. Because a lot of times we're stuck on producing ways we think we should produce. It's like, I never thought I'd do podcasting
Yeah.
ever. And here we are. It's like the 10th conversation I've done over a couple channels now. And it's like, we go into creativity with our brand. And I think when you really go for God, it's like he shows you how to be creative.
Oh, yeah.
And how to do it.
Yeah.
So this area is not used to creativity.
Which I find weird because it's so easy to pull things from nature.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, it's like there's a few people here, like, the wedding photographers or like, the like social media people, but like not as much as where we came from.
Yeah.
Where everyone's a brand specialist in LA. Everyone's a graphic designer. Especially now with like Instagram and how you can edit a whole video on your phone.
Yeah, I think because people are so used to like blue collar type work, so like it's manual labor instead of cranking your brain in a different direction.
Yeah, and that's what I love being here is like everyone goes, people aren't expecting this out here, and I'm like, I know, that's why we're doing it, because creativity pulls the gold out of people. And when I see a video and it's done in an artistic way that makes me think, it pulls out something in me that maybe just an average commercial is like, nah.
Yeah, I think with creativity, it allows you to elevate people's vision in a way they never thought they had to.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, break that down. What do you mean? Like, just like you're taking it to a visual side?
Yeah,
like,
it causes you to see things a little different, and if it's a different position, different posture. Right. For someone who's just a manual labor worker, they think work, go home, sleep, eat. Whereas for someone who creates, they change their perspective on things depending on what they're using, what medium they're using. For like a photographer, you need to change your perspective sometimes to make it look differently, look better.
Yeah. And sometimes that's as simple as like taking the picture here versus taking the picture down here.
Yep.
And just that actual change on the composition makes it seem such like a different vibe. Yeah. How many people are just stuck in their creative because they're not willing to just bring it down a little bit or tweak something? Or you ever watch Friends?
Yes.
Yeah, pivot
the couch.
Pivot. Yeah, pivot. That's cool, man. Well, this is a great conversation. I want to end with just some random questions.
Okay.
We were talking about shows and stuff. What's like your favorite sitcom of all time? Something funny you would watch. Just a show you think like, that's a funny show. I'd watch that.
I think it'd be Friends.
I was gonna say Friends.
Friends. I think that I watched that growing up. If not Friends, New Girl, more currently. My wife watches it all the time as her
New
background.
Girl. I keep hearing about New Girl.
Yeah.
Like Gio said that too.
Yeah,
he likes
yeah.
New Girl.
It's just super quotable. It's a newer take on the whole idea of having a whole group of friends in one apartment.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a sweets guy or a salts guy?
Sweets.
Okay. What's a go-to sweets for you?
Chocolate.
Oh.
Mainly, if I was going to pick a candy bar, it'd be Snickers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to like candy, like gummy bears, Sour Patch. Like if I'm going sweets, it's like sweet and sour, like candy. Chocolate. I'll get down with some chocolate, but it's not usually.
If you had a choice, you'd go.
I would go
over.
candy. I'd be like, Starburst or like something.
I'd go
like
chocolate.
That.
I used to be very much like a gummy bears person.
Yeah. Bad for your teeth, though.
Yeah, that's why I'm more chocolate side. I think the Snickers bar for texture. I really like texture.
That's very cool. Okay, Sony or Canon? Shout out to Jermaine if you're watching, Jermaine. He's like a religious Canon guy.
I think he just likes butting heads with people when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, I know. Okay, Sony or Canon though. What do you think?
Dang. Sony or Canon? I've been on both sides. I will say for the money, Sony.
Oh.
Because right now their packages are pretty solid. Although I don't shoot either anymore, except for church.
Yeah. Okay. So who do you shoot with?
Currently
Fuji?
I'm Fujifilm right now for my system.
Okay.
Yeah, but I've used almost everything except for Nikon.
Yeah. My wife had an old Nikon and it wasn't that good.
I can't.
Yeah,
I never understood it. I've held Nikons. I was like, it
just doesn't make sense.
It's different.
Yeah. Okay. PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox.
What's your system? Like your games you're playing on that system?
Right now, actually, I'm not playing too much on Xbox. Oh wait, no, I am. One thing I play on Xbox right now is called Grounded. So the concept of the game is you're shrunken down. You're a kid, a group of kids that get shrunken down, and you're just trying to survive in your backyard. So you're foraging through the grass, the dirt.
But it's all huge.
It's huge, and then your enemies end up being like giant bugs. So you would hate this game. you'd like literally.
I would be scared, bro.
Yeah.
I don't do bugs, insects, those things get to me. But I mean, so it's like massive animals.
Yeah, so like think like Minecraft, but you're in a backyard.
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah, no, I think of you as like.
Yeah, I could not do this.
I play with my friends and I have headphones in, and when a giant spider jumps, I was like, oh my gosh, it gets so scary so fast.
Yeah,
but
it's so cool though, because I know that about you. You do game with like a group of friends.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of kids that game in today, and a lot of adults that still game.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like an isolated, like I'm just by myself gaming because I hate my life, you know. But you actually have like a friend group. So what's that look like?
I do it for like it's a community thing for me. It's a way for me to connect with my friends back in California.
Yeah, but you're probably later now on the East Coast time.
Yeah,
huh?
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
When I first moved, it was a lot later. It would be every week. I'd be up to like 1 or 2 sometimes.
Yeah.
But now when we do it, I'm done by 10 o'clock because it's with the schedule that we have. Like I need to sleep.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I love it too. Like at our church, we have now like video game groups where it's like students that game together, but there's a leader specifically that's like speaking life into them too.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's play Call of Duty together. And then at the end of it, it's like, bro, I love you guys. You need prayer for anything. And people here were like, we're going to have a video game small group. That's blasphemous. I said, listen, guys, if he is doing life with people consistently and helping them become more like Jesus, let's call it a group.
Yeah.
You know? And so if I can get a lost person closer to church because we got a video game group, but they're going to hear the gospel, let's go for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I love games. I'm more of a FIFA sports guy.
I like FIFA. I like FIFA because of you.
You started playing it now because we've been playing.
Yeah, it's fun.
Gets a little intense.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, you and Gio.
That's good. Yeah. Good times. Husband, dancer,
Yes.
photographer,
Yes.
production lead,
Yes.
cook, Chef Jeri.
I wear hats.
Yeah, it was great talking to you, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're so thankful to have you on this team. You know, the
I'm very
podcasts are
happy.
great. We can film content all day.
Yeah.
But it's great building a church with you.
No, dude, this is one of the greatest decisions I've ever made. Moving cross country
great.
to be here with you guys. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the best is yet to come, man.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Hey, thanks for watching episode 5 of Good News. Jerry's going to be hosting some stuff coming up, so we wanted to get some alone time with him, but make sure you share this, subscribe, do all this stuff that people do on YouTube. And it'd be great, man.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey.
We love you.